I'm going to ask Ms. Helen Blankenship to lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Blankenship. Anybody got any questions on the agenda or consent agenda? Mr. Oldham, do you have anything?
There's a new item on there, the annual fire alarm inspections that we haven't had before, where we've been walking around with the fire marshal when he goes around making repairs immediately and what we can, but they're kind of changing that and saying we're going to need to have a separate fire alarm inspection too. So that's a new expenditure now. Gary, if you need to talk about it, can talk about it. That's kind of a new requirement for us.
Is that every school, or
It's every school.
what kind of money are you talking about?
That was the total for the inspections in there. I think about $25,000 for all the.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. Oldham.
Ready to go to, we got volunteer coaches and high school recognition. We're ready to do number 9?
Yes.
Is that where we are? Okay. Siegel Middle School baseball gate. Mr. Tom Durbridge has requested permission to construct a new gate into the baseball field. It will be constructed of wrought iron and supported by 2 brick columns. A sketch is attached to the board's information and has been reviewed by the staff attorney. There's no gender equity problem. Cost for the gate will be funded through the Baseball Booster Club at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. And the motion will be to approve construction of a new baseball field gate at Siegel Middle School Sports Complex at no cost to the board. B, naming of Rockville Middle School access road. Principal Fred Barlow has requested permission to name the access road that circles Rockville Middle School Brown Circle. This will honor the Brown family from whom the property for the school was purchased. Mr. Homer Brown and his family were extremely supportive and cordial during the entire process of purchasing the property and building the school. They have contributed much to the development of Rutherford County over the years. And the motion is to name the access road that circles Rockville Middle School as Brown Circle.
I believe we've done that, did that at several schools,
And
hadn't
that's
we?
something similar to that.
All right.
Okay. C is Oakland Middle School temporary concession sheds and scoreboard. Principal Sandra Eaton has requested permission to install temporary sheds at the baseball and softball fields at Oakland Middle School. The sheds will be 8 feet by 10 feet and serve as concession stands during ball games and be paid for with Booster Club funds. There will be no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. The school will also install a scoreboard at both baseball and softball fields. Other than the cost for connection of the school boards to electricity by maintenance, the Booster Clubs will be paying for all costs with no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. Oakland Middle School will be responsible for meeting all codes and purchasing all required permits for placement of the sheds and scoreboards. No gender equity issue because both baseball and softball fields will receive the same items. And the motion will be to approve construction of temporary buildings and scoreboards at Oakland Middle School at the baseball and softball field at no cost to the board. We've done this in the past. This is a similar thing. Mr. Carty says the connection to the electricity, it may be $1,000 time you get everything connected up with that. That's basically what the cost would be to us.
The reason they're called temporary is even though they're going to stay there permanently or as long as needed, just because they don't have a footer or foundation or
They won't have electricity
temporary to me means about 30 days, but these are going to be ongoing.
They're calibrated down
Explain again about the $1,000.
It's said in there that the cost would be, there'd be no cost for the sheds and that sort of thing, but they would like the electricity hooked up, which we typically do with our maintenance department. So that may cost close to $1,000 to get the electricity there for their usage, with them paying for everything else.
And the electricity hookup will be covered under
It'd be a maintenance expense. fee.
maintenance?
Yes, it's standard to do under maintenance for us because we save about 60 or 70% instead of them subcontracting it out if we do it ourselves. With our staff,
Is it on people?
But at our expense, not at the expense of the boosters?
that's correct.
Okay.
And it's a standard thing that we've done over the years to help them out.
Number 10 is financial matters. This is a new item. Non-custodial staff living in high school custodian apartments. Our state auditors noticed that we had apartments in the high schools for custodial staff. Living in these apartments is not a taxable fringe benefit as long as the employer requires an employee to live there. 5 of the 7 major high schools have either their lead custodian or another custodian living in the apartment. We've changed their job descriptions to require that they live in the apartment. For us, the advantage are additional security and having someone to make certain the school is properly secured at the end of the day. We have a teacher and a cafeteria manager who are living at 2 of the schools. Since their job descriptions do not require that they live in the school, the apartment is a taxable benefit and must be added to their paychecks. We are asking board approval for a supplement that would cover the $500 per month market value of the apartment and an additional amount that will approximately cover the additional federal income tax, FICA, and Medicare that these employees will have deducted from their paychecks. Right now, this addition would be in the $130 to $150 range per month. The motion is to approve a monthly supplement in the $630 to $650 range for non-custodial employees who, by living in the apartments, provide additional security and make certain the school is properly secured at the end of the day. And Mr. Sandvig is here to speak on that if y'all would like to, if you have additional questions.
Mr. Tackett?
It says that the job description has been changed, so is that saying when those 2 lead custodians are replaced at those 2 schools, the next lead custodian would be required to live there?
I think if we had a lead custodian, the job description would already be covered. These 2 people have to be a cafeteria manager, so it's not a person that is actually the lead
Well,
custodian.
my question is, but there is a lead custodian at school that chooses not to live there?
That has chosen not to live there.
Okay, so I'm trying to come to grips with what the job description
Jeff, you want to
that
step
would
up?
change.
Kind of.
When we have either a custodian or a lead custodian living in that apartment, Angel McLeod modified job description so we can have a a lead custodian who lives in the apartment or a lead custodian who does not. And if the lead custodian, if it's available and the lead custodian wants to live there, he or she would be switched to the residential job description. Same thing with a custodian. Just that way there is no tax issue at all. But for these 2 people, we didn't want to change their job descriptions. So it will be an ongoing taxable fringe benefit for them. Just our auditor, we had an auditor who has a child in the Rutherford County School, and the parent auditor became aware of
Well,
it.
I mean, I understand how that would work that way. I was just trying to come back to what the job description, and I'm 1,000% for having someone in that apartment. I mean, I think it clearly is a benefit to the schools to have that done. And, you know, if a lead custodian chooses not to, I guess I can understand that, but it's pretty good fringe benefit for them if they would choose to go that direction. So,
And it may change when they change the lead custodian, they may make the decision to make that change. We just caught these people, we're kind of in the middle is where we are in this one.
Is the lead custodian the default resident? Or who makes the decision as to who would reside
Typically the
there?
principal. Typically the principal in negotiating with the ones that they're recommending for employment. I don't think you would always want it to be a requirement to be a lead custodian that you must live there. You might not get the best person to be your lead custodian. I mean, we need to give them some flexibility to find the very best person to be that lead custodian.
What are the requirements for a non-custodial resident?
Basically, I think what they're looking for is building security. And so coming with that, one of the requirements would be that they maybe walk the building or check the building late in the afternoon to make sure it's locked. There's something going on in our buildings, weekends, nights. Having somebody there with the opportunity to do that or make a contact with is very beneficial. And I know Mr. Tackett's experienced that, because Oakland, when you were principal there, had that lead custodian. So that actually you had one that lived there, but
We did.
for a while, did your lead live there or one of the other ones?
For a while, the apartment was vacant. It was unused for several years. And Raymond Haynes was when Siegel High School opened up, Raymond Haynes became the new lead custodian at Oakland and chose to do that. So we had maintenance come out and do some significant upgrade, probably not the right word, but just to take it out of mothballs. And he lived it. It was, to me, it's extremely desirable if it is the lead custodian or a custodian that has skills to do some things, because just like I might tinker around in my garage on a Saturday afternoon, if he's there with not a lot else to do, he'll go down and fix that lock, and he'll go down and fix this faucet and whatever at that time. So it's extremely desirable to me. If I was in a position to hire, I would do everything I could to hire someone in that direction. But at the same time, it's not a luxury apartment. I mean, there are lead custodians that have those skills to do whatever, that would look around and say, I would rather maintain my house, I would rather do whatever. And I think to require them to do that would cause us to probably lose some good people.
Are we at risk of losing people if we don't put this additional supplement in place for the two non-custodial?
I just think it's really, I think it's attractive to be able to do this. Now, will those two leave? I don't know, but it's certainly, they're taking a cut in pay. If they're going to, if we don't reimburse them for this, then their deductions on their check, since this is now taxable to them,
Right.
they're gonna have deductions on their check that other custodians or cafeteria managers or whatever would not have.
Or do they pay rent?
No, because part of their rent is the security of the building, to be there and be on call for those times that you need them.
Understand.
Is there an apartment in the new high school?
Just a question, Mr. Sandy. Wanting to approve 630 to 650 a month, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've got two schools that this will be affected by.
Yes, sir.
So based on the 130, 150 per month, right now you'd be looking at $300 a month, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So I guess my question is, why are we wanting 630 to 650?
Well, I'm including the 500 that is an in and out. There would be a total
Well, this is per school.
per school, yes, sir.
Okay.
I added the 500 to it. That part is an in and out wash.
So it's not a 1099 type deal.
No, sir. But it would flow through to their W-2s.
So instead of 650, we're looking at what, 1,300?
Right. Since it's
Based on two schools?
Yes, sir. And we were having some trouble on the payroll side. I didn't put an exact amount because we were having some trouble the way and we think we figured it out, but I don't know what the exact amount will be until we basically run it through payroll.
But I would think on your approval, your motion, you may want to put per unit. So that was one. I think that 630, 650, if you got two vacant, doesn't work out that way. Anybody else?
Let me ask this, based on some other emails, some other issues like we've had with the pool and all, is there anything that other custodians can come back and say, well, you're paying them? Can you give us more? I mean, you know, it's not fair for them to get that, or is, you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone could have come back and said that earlier, just you are providing them the benefit. Now, you're going to see a little adverse consequence from this benefit.
Okay.
Potentially. So I don't think there is that issue. And for one, Mr. Powell at Smyrna said it's been close to 20 years since they've had a custodian. They always often have a coach, but a young teacher.
In the past, one could say that lead custodian, you got, the fringe benefit was you got a department with
Yeah.
your job,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, and that is still kind of true. You know, basically for all of those in that, but,
Well, I know people look at it real narrow and how, you know, well, you do it for him, but you don't do it for me, and
Mr. Tackett?
We're getting a bargain at $650. And for those people that want that opportunity to get in there for that $650, to have their door knocked on at all day, all hours of the day and night, Saturdays and Sunday in particular, I promise you, it takes a unique individual that will see that $650 as a pay. They'll find, just to offset the nuisance of all of us that lose our keys, the lights aren't working in the cafeteria, we've got a dance going on in the annex, and we need this moved and that. They will more than get $650 worth of wear and tear on their shoelace, I can tell you.
we left our glasses at school.
Oh.
Could we go look and see if they're there, or my coat's in there and we don't have another coat?
They're very little.
Can you let us in to do it? I mean, you're talking about 2,000 pupil high schools here.
There's
or
a reason
something.
that place stayed empty at Smyrna High School.
Anybody else? Number 11.
Number 11, excusal from compulsory attendance. Pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated section 49-6-3005, the Board of Education may excuse students from complying with compulsory attendance laws if they are mentally or physically incapacitated to perform school duties. Duly licensed physician must confirm the incapacitation. A copy of the physician's note for a student experiencing physical incapacitation has been provided to the Director of Schools. Under the Board's authority, the Director of Schools will approve the student's excusal from compulsory attendance at this time. And the motion is to allow the Director of Schools the authority to excuse students who are physically or mentally incapacitated from compulsory attendance. And we have a case right now, is why this is on here, that the physicians are saying this student cannot attend, and in my understanding, homebound services were not even able to do homebound service. So you're excusing this student from compulsory attendance. Basically what we're requesting permission to do.
Since Angel nodded her head, I assume that applies to state law.
That's, the law gives us the right to do this, so that's.
So what did we do before?
What did we do?
We have only had one other of these, I think, since I've been here. And the reason that we approach it this way and put the motion this way is so that the medical information doesn't have to be presented on the board agenda for the student. So I reviewed it, Mr. Owens reviewed it. We offered homebound services to this student first, and now the physician has said that he's just not strong enough at this point to even do that. So at the time when the student is able to do that, then we will pick back up with those services.
That makes sense.
So the motion is on a case-by-case basis?
Yes, we would have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, because we first offer homebound services, because that's our job, you know, to do that. But basically, what she's saying, do you want it to come in? I mean, I can do it, or we could put the name on the agenda and do it that way and all. Do we want to do that? I mean, that's kind of where we are. And as she says, this is not frequent at all because she's had one other in her years here.
And I think we could put this on the agenda if we have it engaged, just so the board's aware of it, but without having to share all the information about the student.
So each time we would expect to see this?
I think we
I
could
don't
do
have a
that.
problem
That would be
doing
fine.
that.
I don't expect there to be very many of them, but,
Well, you pray there's not.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
You pray that there's not many.
Right.
Number 12 is our policies, new and revised policies, and this will be our first reading. Of course, policy 6.312 is changes in the use of personal communication devices and cellular telephones. And the purpose is to allow students to use personal technology devices for instructional purposes. And policy 6.316, suspensions, is to add language to the policy allowing suspensions for possession of toy weapons on school property except for school-sponsored or approved functions. And the motion would be to approve policy 6.312 and 6.316 on first reading as recommended by the policy committee.
Any questions? You may, I don't know if it'd be worthwhile for Ms. McLeod basically just, on these two policies, just basically tell the general public what we actually changed on it. Would you want to do that?
For the first policy, 6.312, during our policy committee meeting, Mr. Evans explained that we are in the process of beginning a pilot program for students to use their own technology in classrooms next year at several schools. And so in the process of that, we decided that because our current policy prohibits the use of cell phones and other electronic devices in classrooms during the instructional day, that we needed to amend that policy to be in compliance with our new program. So that's what would change, is that the new policy would allow students to bring technology to school and to use it during instructional time at the permission of the teacher or an administrator. The second policy, 6.316, we have not had a provision in our current discipline policy to allow for suspensions for possession of toy weapons. And the board and the committee chose to, at this point, add some language allowing that, that language to be added to the policy so that that is an option in our disciplinary code.
On the first of those two, did we also provide a provision that all schools would follow the same guidelines as far as what will happen upon?
Correct. As a part of that adoption of that policy, we are implementing an administrative procedure that will provide for consistent disciplinary action and with confiscation of electronic devices.
And we might say to the people that's watching us, either on television, internet, or someone that's following tonight's meeting, our policies are on the board website. If you come to Rutherford County Board of Education, go to the website, and you look under the Board of Education on the left side. When you click that, you'll find the policy manual. So they can reference the manual. If they're trying to see what these two languages happen to be, if you have opened our board agenda tonight on your PDF, you can click on the right-hand side again, the little emblem over there, and can open and see on all of our items tonight that has a tab number. That item is also shown available to you through the internet to look at the policy and the changes that are made. So you can view all of those from home if you'd like.
Mr. Odom, I do feel like Thursday night it would be appropriate to emphasize the accompanying administrative policy or administrative guidelines that are going with 6.312, both in the aspect that we have pilot programs, and it's really going to be on a school-by-school, case-by-case basis when these devices are allowed in. We want to move in this direction, but we've got to move intentionally and with the school administrators' blessings.
Would you like those posted up as on the website with these two administrative procedures? We can do that.
I think I would like to see that,
Okay.
to give a better
We'll get that done.
understanding to them.
We'll do that.
regardless of policies. Number 13, general discussion. Anybody have anything? Mr. Holiday?
You know, we went to the TSBA State Convention this past weekend, and, wait a second, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, yeah. But this is the first time we've been together since then. And so there's a policy in there that when we go for continuing education and training, that we report back in a board meeting that has occurred. So I know several of us were in attendance there for that.
Anything else? Nothing else. We'll see everybody Thursday at 5 o'clock. We're adjourned.